the look on people's faces when chaos emerges, when it rears its ugly head into your life. And believe it or not, take it as a blessing in disguise. And of course, uncertainty is scary, but nevertheless, it'll bring something out of you you never thought possible if you look at it as such. And here's the thing. I used to be an optimizer. That was my thing. I wanted to do all the things that optimizers said to do, right? The morning routines, the ice baths, the skincare, the regimen, right? The discipline, the habits, all this nonsense, right? All these bulletproof lists of things that you need to do to really springboard your health and get your energy on track. And naturally you can understand the allure. However, I think there's more to get out of life, and there's more that comes out, the nectar, the juice, the honey that comes out of life from anti-optimizing or from de-optimizing. And I'll tell you what, think about this. I used to think, and naturally this is a thought that a lot of people have, which is that you should ingest a certain amount of protein, right? Per gram, per body weight, that whole nonsense, right? The whole science behind that, or of timing your protein, or of getting a certain amount of protein or grams a day, right? And I think to myself, like, bro, there's nothing in nature that would instruct us to live like that. Nothing. Because the reality was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, in the desert, in the jungle, in the prairie, on the steppe, you couldn't possibly dream of having this amount of protein on a given day, maybe on a feast, right? But we're essentially feasting every day. Every day is Thanksgiving, essentially, is what it feels like right now, right? You have a bunch of protein accessible at any whim, right? At any point in time of the day. And so what I realized was that's super optimized, right? The anti-optimized perspective of protein intake would be what? It would be to tinker with that a bit. Maybe one day you go heavy protein and the next day you go very low protein, or you play with the timings of protein. Instead of eating, 3 times a day, large amounts of protein, you maybe wait till you have one heavy protein meal at the end of a workout, right? At the end of a day, and that's your one time to get some protein in, right? That's the window of time that you have to essentially get it in. And of course, that sounds counterintuitive, like, well, I'm not going to get as many gains. Well, that's not the point, though. The point is, like I said, you want to tinker with those mechanisms. You want to play around with that profile, right? Because think about it, if you've gotten your body so used to a certain thing, nothing about that is realistic. None of it mirrors nature at any point. Even 100, like I said, you go about 100 years ago, you don't have 3 consistent meals every day. It changed with the seasons. It changed with the weather. It changed with what you could find. There was famine, there was feasting, right? And there was all the in-between as well. So I went away from that. I stopped pathologizing sort of a workout regimen. So check this out. This is where the lesson comes. I used to work out every day, and I used to try to eat religiously healthy every day, right? I did this for 2 years in a row, and I looked like absolute dog shit. Fast forward, I now eat pretty much whatever I want and only work out twice a week, and I'm in better shape now than I've ever been. There's a lesson in that, right? There's a lesson in that. The first one was an hyper-optimized sort of state of mind. The second one was aloof and in tune with what I think is my nature, or as best as I can mirror the nature of my sort of ancestors and ecosystem would be at, as close as I can, right? Realistically, I can't do much about a lot of the things that are in the air or the way our food is produced, but I can try to mimic it just a little bit, right? To kind of give me what that feeling is like, okay? The second one is eating windows. I was talking to a friend of a friend at dinner, and this guy, I could not believe it when he told me this. I'm like, bro, like, you're on a gateway drug to being a raging homosexual. And this guy was telling me that he has to eat every 2 hours, and if he doesn't, he gets a headache. And the first thing I think to myself is like, bro, you got love handles. Like, on what planet are you living on where you think you can You deserve the right to be eating every 2 hours. And the fact that you've already conditioned your body to get to the point where you'll get headaches if you don't is troubling, to say the least. And I think that's the type of thing that you want to get away from, because that's that whole iron discipline, waking up at 4 in the morning, running 3 miles, having these 2 hour eating, the Goggins type of regimen that I think doesn't really get you anywhere, because what is the point of that, right? Just to prove to yourself that you were able to do something? Fine. I mean, if that's what you need, if that's what you want, then so be it. So be it. But I just thought to myself, what a joke, what a joke to be that platooned to your habits, right? That scared to get away from your regimen, that afraid to do all these things. And then, and mind you, these are the type of guys that are wearing polyester, that are wearing sunglasses first thing in the morning, that are staying away from the sun, that are afraid to stay up a little late, afraid to eat something that doesn't fit their macros. I mean, these kind of guys, right? It's like, live a little, right? Suffer, struggle. The body punishes predictability. I'll tell you that much. The body absolutely punishes you for being so predictable. And I think, just like nature, the body does reward and encourage courage. Absolutely. And you got to understand, like, we're in the modern world, right? And that is counterintuitive to nature, everything about the comforts that we're in. So we've stripped away a lot of these primal desires out of ourselves, right? It's a spiritual lobotomy. We've neutered our soul, essentially, is what this feels like. And even furthermore, if you want to crack away from the sort of normie path, I would say is play around with a lot of these things that you hear online about optimizing and getting your sleep and dialing in your supplements and this and that. Play around with that stuff. Don't listen to me. Just play around with it. I'm saying it because, like, I've done the regimented lifestyle. It didn't yield the results that I thought it would, and I started becoming a wild man, a pirate, if you will. And I got way more results from that. And I don't know if it was more of a psychological thing, that I was able to sort of allow myself to kind of gallop, right? And that the ability to kind of free myself from that, like, the shackles of discipline and having a routine, that have allowed me to kind of gain a lot of insights and yielded a lot of positive results, physically, mentally, and spiritually. But anyhow, this is the case for why you should anti-optimize or de-optimize. I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.